Holy fuck, I fucked up. Why did I do that? Why did I do that? That's the dumbest shit I ever did. It's spicy. Fuck. Hey, I'm Joe, this is Fork and Timbers, the barbecue channel where flavor comes first and consequences, they come second. Today we're going to be testing the waters with a little bit more heat than we're used to. Now I've set out to make some authentic Jamaican jerk chicken. So that means it's going to be hotter than a $2 pistol in a church fight. But I've been known to handle some pretty damn spicy food, so I don't think it'll be a problem. Now we're not just going to be making Jamaican jerk, we're going to be talking some history about it as well. And this recipe only requires about 20 Scotch bonnet peppers, so what can go wrong? So go over to my Patreon for a deeper dive into this week's video and grab the recipe from my website. Me say mek we take jerk to a whole nother level. Now, for Jamaican jerk chicken, you can use any part of the chicken you want. Mostly they're going to be using leg quarters though, or you can cut down a whole chicken and do that. Now jerk is really going to come along well before Jamaica becomes what Jamaica is today. Before colonization, the island's going to be made up of people called the Taíno people, and they're part of a group called the Arawak. And they would cook on these wooden structures called barbacoa they was raised, and this would allow them to cook meat slower, preserve it with smoke, and add smoke flavor. And this technique's going to become foundational, not just to the island, but hell, kind of everywhere in a lot of places, because barbacoa is a term that we get barbecue. Now what we need to do is I'm going to put this chicken in the refrigerator and we're going to be making the marinade. So we're going to be starting off really strong with the marinade. We're going to be using some authentic flavors. Now this here is a signature jerk flavor. You gotta have it. It's a Scotch bonnet pepper. Scotch bonnet peppers are kind of hard to find around where I'm at, so I use a farmer on Etsy. I don't have an affiliate link, but I'm going to leave you a link in the description to where I get them. But you gotta have these. And if you refuse to order something online, you could potentially use a habanero pepper. They're going to be about the equal amount spicy level. Think about 350,000 Scoville units. Remove these stems from this. You don't want to toss those in there. But the heat on a habanero is going to hit you a lot quicker, whereas with a Scotch bonnet, the heat kind of builds up. Also, if you got someone that just can't handle the heat at all, use something like an ají dulce. It's something we used in the Puerto Rican pernil video. Very fruity, no heat at all. You can also use a cachucha. But if you want authentic Jamaican jerk, you got to use the Scotch bonnet peppers. Also, another very important ingredient is going to be your green onions. And these are just going to add some real freshness, a real sharp bite to it. And you want to add about 6 to 8 of those. And with the Scotch bonnet, we want to do about 7 of those. You can use less, but the more the better. Next up, to give it a very savory backbone, we want to use about, let's say 6 whole garlic cloves. Toss those in there. Next, we got to have thyme. I'm just using a whole bunch that you can buy from Kroger or any grocery store. That's going to give you that fresh, earthy note. Got to have that as well. Just throw the whole thing in there. Next up, one of your most signature flavors in jerk is allspice. And we're going to use 2 teaspoons of that in the marinade. Next, I like to take about a half a knob of ginger, fresh, toss it in there. Next, we're going to use some nutmeg. We're only going to do about a half a teaspoon of that. It's just going to add some warmth to the marinade. It smells amazing. Next, I like to take about a half a stick of cinnamon. Now, this isn't like one of the cinnamon sticks you get from the grocery store that's hard as fuck. These here are flake. I got this from the Supermercado in Louisville. It's like a Mexican grocery store. Toss that in there. Next, we want to balance out the heat a little bit with some sugar, and we're going to use about 1 tablespoon of brown sugar. The next ingredient, it's a little more modern. They really wouldn't been using this back in the day, but it's soy sauce. It just adds that really nice umami flavor. 2 tablespoons of that. Next up, we got about a tablespoon of white vinegar. You want to use that just to give it some acidity. It's going to really round everything out. We got that heat, sweet, acidity. Next, do you a couple tablespoons of oil. This is really by eye. I'm not going to sit and measure it out. I also like to hit it with some black pepper. A little bit more sharp notes. And lastly, I want to do about a tablespoon of salt, but you can do this to taste once we blend it. Let's throw this on here. Make sure to push these things on the side down. And I'm gonna add a little bit more oil because you want everything to blend real nice. You don't want it to be super runny, but you gotta have some consistency. I don't know, it probably ends up being 1/4 of a cup of oil. What we wanna do now is just test it out here. That's really thick and pasty like. That's what I'm talking about right there. Oh yeah, that's beautiful, man. Beautiful. Now, let's talk a little more history and mix this up with the chicken real quick. All right, so now what we need to do is take this chicken, throw it in this bowl, marinate it. Now, this is gonna sound very similar to the Puerto Rico pernil video in the beginning, which you can check out up here. Because in 1494, Christopher Columbus is gonna make his way to the island of Jamaica. And the Spanish are gonna claim it as theirs. And what you're gonna see happen after that is the population of the Taíno people is gonna start dwindling down into damn near nothing. They're dying because of diseases. Their bodies just can't fight off the diseases that the Spanish are bringing. They don't have the antibodies for it. Forced labor, which is a fancy word for slavery. And in general, just all out aggression from the Spanish because the Taíno people, you know, they will resist and rebel. And because of this dwindling population of the Taíno people due to the Spanish colonization, the Spanish realized that they need to bring more labor over, you know, slaves. They look to start bringing over African slaves, specifically from West Africa. And then in 1655, things start to kind of get put on their head a little bit because the English kind of play a reverse Uno card on Spain, and they actually take Jamaica from them. The English conquest of Jamaica, which is led by a man named Oliver Cromwell, and it's part of his bigger plan called the Western Design. Really, it's just a fancy word for saying that he wants to establish more English power in the Caribbeans. You know, the Caribbeans had a lot of resources. They had slaves and apparently gold in the river. And coincidentally enough, Jamaica was actually a backup target because the British actually failed to take over Hispaniola. Now during this transition of power from the Spanish to the English, your African slaves would take advantage of it and actually would flee into the interiors of the island, specifically the mountains or the Blue Mountains. And these people would become known as the Maroons. Now what we want to do here is take this marinade and get it under the skin and as deep into the chicken as you possibly can. Just kind of, we're going to sit here and massage it for a few minutes, you know, while we talk about this history. Now the Maroons, they were resistant. You know, they wouldn't have no part of becoming a slave or staying a slave. And they would fight with a warfare style called guerrilla warfare. And the British, they fought in line formations. You know, that shit didn't work in Jamaica, in the mountains, you know. It was built for guerrilla warfare style. One of the Maroons' most important leaders was a lady called Queen Nanny. Now Queen Nanny was considered a badass. And she would lead communities of the Maroons against the British. She's actually on the $500 Jamaican bill. And she was specifically leading the Windward Maroons. Now the fighting between the Maroons and the British, it would stretch across many years during the First Maroon War. And the terrain made it damn near impossible for the British to defeat the Maroons. Queen Nanny knew the terrain better than anybody, and she was a master at guerrilla warfare. They could take out British soldiers like that, be gone by the time the British even sent backup. They was gone. They was fighting fucking Casper the Ghost. There are a lot of stories about Queen Nanny and some of her abilities. You know, that she communicated across the mountains to other tribes using horns, that she could catch a bullet with her bare hands, that she could become invisible and blend in with the forest, that she could communicate with the spirits of her ancestors, and that she could cast spells that would make her people more difficult to defeat. Now, most of that is likely folklore, and they believe that a lot of her powers came from their African ancestors. But it just goes to show you how respected and feared this woman was. Now, eventually, the British, you know, they cannot defeat these people. So they're kind of forced to negotiate. And they actually end up negotiating with another leader, and his name is Cudjoe. Now, he led another group of the Maroons, but essentially the British granted them autonomy, granted them the land, and recognized them as free people. Not that they had a whole hell of a lot of choice in the matter. But the same people that's going to invent jerk are the same people that brought one of the most powerful empires in the world at the time, forced them to make peace. Like, that's pretty incredible. And there is a side effect to living in the mountains, trying to stay undercover and not getting caught. And that's where Jamaican jerk is going to develop. I think I got this pretty mixed up. I like to get it up under the skin because we want to get that flavor all around. Some techniques we even cut deep into the meat, push the marinade into it. You can do that as well. I find that this does a great job. And what we're gonna do is we'll cover this. Can't nothing happen simply. Damn. And what I like to do is try to marinate this for 24 hours if you can. That's the sweet spot. But we all know you ain't gonna do that shit. I'm gonna take this, put it in the refrigerator, and we're gonna make a rub. Alrighty, we replenished. You can't find a red stripe just anywhere around here. Now, the Maroons, while in the mountains hiding from the British, they need a cooking technique that doesn't give their position away. And an open fire with smoke rolling up into the sky is a big fucking bat signal, pretty much, right? So what they did is they got innovative and they took the existing barbacoa style from the Taíno indigenous people and they adapted. So what they start doing is cooking with pimento wood, which is native there to Jamaica, and they would cook in pits in the ground. And the seasonings that they would use would be things that were native and local to them. Which brings up allspice. Now, allspice is a native tree to Jamaica. It's also called pimento, and the wood from allspice and the berries from allspice has a really warm, complex, very signature Jamaican flavor. And we're gonna use 1 tablespoon of allspice in our rub. Then comes along thyme. Now, thyme is a very important ingredient, adds a lot of earthy notes. It was something that they had readily available to them. And we're gonna use 1 teaspoon of dried thyme, not the ground, but dried. Now, in the rest of this rub, we're gonna have 1 teaspoon of black pepper. Add a nice little sharp bite to it. Obviously, you need salt. We'll do 2 teaspoons of that. I'm using a coarse salt, that way it's not overly salty. We're gonna do 1 teaspoon of garlic, 1 teaspoon of onion powder. We're gonna do a half a teaspoon of cayenne. That's just bringing back a little bit more heat. I like it as spicy as it can get. Next, we wanna do a half a teaspoon of ginger. All flavors that you're gonna see in authentic, original Jamaican jerk. And then we're gonna round it out with a little bit of brown sugar. We're just gonna do a half a teaspoon of that. So I'll take that brown sugar, kind of break it up. I don't want it to be in clumps. Shake it up. Boom. That's what we got. Let's give it a try there. Oh yeah, oh yeah. All right, so the goal here is to transfer this chicken over to this pan. And then we're gonna apply this rub to it liberally. Now, we wanna use as much of the marinade as possible to create a thicker paste rather than a dry rub, because if I got a dry rub on there, it will burn. Now, we were talking about the Scotch bonnet peppers and how they kind of play a role in this recipe. And Scotch bonnet peppers, they don't just add heat, they also are peppers that have capsaicin in them. And I'm not a scientist, so I'm gonna use some big words here to make me sound smart, but I ain't that damn smart. But the capsaicin has antimicrobial properties. That's right, I said that right. Antimicrobial properties, which helps food from spoiling. And when you're in the mountains, it's hot, you know, that's very important. So jerk isn't just about flavor really, it's a system. And it's a system that's built on indigenous technique, African influence, and just that constant pressure of being under threat. We'll take some of this marinade here. Now, over time, that system's going to evolve because early jerk was really about wild hog. That's what the Maroons hunted, so that's what they cooked. But as Jamaica becomes more stabilized over time, they get access to domesticated animals like chickens. And chicken is more available. It's cheaper, it's easier to cook, just, you know, convenient. Pork continues to stay very integral to jerk, but logistically chicken is just easier. And by the 19th and 20th century, you'll see Jamaican jerk go from a survival food to now it's a cultural tradition. And the cooking techniques, they evolve with it. People don't have to cook in underground pits anymore. Now they're cooking on open air, you know, fires with charcoal and, more importantly, pimento wood. Got to have the pimento wood. Take some of this marinade, rub it on. Yep. And a lot of times what they'll be cooking on is like a repurposed oil drum, and you'll start to see Jamaican jerk becomes a cultural street food. So if you go to Jamaica on the streets, you're gonna see people having a good time, you know, cooking with those repurposed oil drums. And now go ahead and get some of that rub down under the skin too. Now we don't have to worry about it burning down in there. We got plenty of marinade. Just make sure you don't end up with a bunch of dry spots. Kind of coat it evenly. This is enough rub for easily 6 quarters. We'll always have a little extra left over. Just toss it on there. I use it all, baby. So I think, you know, that's looking pretty good. What we'll do from here is we'll go outside and we'll talk about how we use the grill. We're gonna be using the Weber Smoky Mountain actually today. You can use the Weber kettle, but the Weber Smoky Mountain is absolutely perfect for cooking jerk chicken because we can use that heat source from the bottom and use live wood. We're gonna be using some pimento wood. You know, you don't see too many recipes out there that actually go through buying pimento wood, mostly because it's a little expensive to get here to Kentucky. But I'm gonna throw these in the fridge. We'll go out here and I'll show you how to use that. First thing you need to do before you light your grill is buy you some pimento wood. I know it's gonna be hard to source it. That's why I've left you 2 links in the description. Don't worry, they're not affiliates. I'm not making $1. What I like to do is I take 2 chimneys full of charcoal, unlit, throw it in the bottom of the Weber Smoky Mountain. Then I take a 3rd chimney and I light it. I want it to become completely lit before I toss that lit charcoal onto that unlit charcoal. At that point, go ahead and open up all the vents on the bottom of your Weber Smoky Mountain. We want a raging fire, and we want as much airflow as possible. Then go ahead and take you quite a bit of pimento wood. You know, this isn't like we're running the Weber Smoky Mountain for smoking. We're not going to use 3, 4, 5 pieces. We want to throw a few handfuls. We want as much wood as possible, you know, without, you know, being wasteful. Next thing you want to do is you want to take the water pan and the bottom grate out of the Weber Smoky Mountain. The only thing that should be in it is the top grate. We're going to be cooking directly over the coals, you know, about 2 feet of space. This is going to be the closest way that we can replicate the way that they would be cooking, you know, without taking an oil drum and cutting it in half and making it a smoker. Now, we don't need a super clean burn. Part of the Jamaican jerk technique is having a lot of smoke. And we're not smoking like normally. It's going to be a relatively quick cook. So once your fire's going and you got your wood on, put your smoker together and go ahead and throw your chicken on. And this is where we're going to develop some really nice color. Now, if you think it looks burnt, it's probably not burnt. I mean, obviously be smart about it, right? Don't just be fucking burning the chicken up and saying it's Jamaican jerk chicken. But you're gonna have a lot of dark color on it. And we're far enough away from the fire that if you burn your shit up, it's your fault. So get some really good color. Once you have that color on it, go ahead and throw your lid on and let it keep cooking. We're trying to bring it up to about 185. I like to bring my chicken a lot higher than, you know, 170, 175. You can do that when it's on the thigh or leg like that. But as long as you got it to 175, it's safe to eat. Oh, let's let that chicken there cook. We'll talk a little bit more history. Now in Jamaica, a lot of your vendors, they're gonna be grilling the meat and then they're gonna be chopping it up with a cleaver. And then they'll serve it with like some simple sides like festival, which is a light fried bread, or cassava flatbread, which goes back to your Taíno roots, you know. Now, as Jamaicans would migrate to places like the UK or Canada or United States, jerk would spread globally. And, you know, a lot of these people, they don't have access to pimento wood or a lot of even the Scotch bonnet peppers and things like that. And a lot of people can't handle the heat. So the flavors start to get adjusted quite a bit. And then Jamaican jerk starts to become a sauce or a seasoning. And that's not what Jamaican jerk is. It's not a sauce or seasoning. It's kind of a system. It's everything combined together, the history. And that's what makes Jamaican jerk. And what started as really a survival food for these Maroons has now become one of the most globally recognizable cultural foods in the world. But at its roots, Jamaican jerk is still a result of that progression. Indigenous technique, colonial disruption, African resistance, and pretty much adaptation over time, you know, and that's really what Jamaican jerk is. It's not all of this seasonings and sauces and things. It's just a culmination of all of it. I think this chicken's ready. We'll take it in and we'll serve it up with some Jamaican pepper sauce. Gets hot standing over that fire. Now let's recap a little bit what we did here. We marinated the chicken in some Scotch bonnet pepper, some thyme, some scallions, bunch of shit. After about 24 hours, took a rub that we made with some allspice, some thyme, some other shit, rubbed it on there pretty thick. Don't let it be dry. You wanna mix it in with that marinade so it becomes almost like a paste. I use it all, baby. Then get your Weber Smoky Mountain out. Take everything out of it except for the top grate. Get it blazing hot on the bottom. Throw some pimento wood on there. That's important. And then just grill it and sear it till you get some really nice color. Then put that lid on there. Let it cook until it's up to about 185. You're gonna have something that looks like this. That's phenomenal, dude. That's some of the best looking jerk that I've made. So I'm really excited about it. Now the way that you serve this actually, let's take these and move them to the side, is they don't just give you a big piece of chicken like this. What they're gonna do is they're actually going to chop it up with a cleaver. Now, if you look at the back of this chicken, these are like little pieces of fried chicken. Like this shit right here is phenomenal. I love those pieces like that. So what we're gonna do is we'll go ahead and chop it up with this cleaver. Get your fingers out of the way unless you wanna lose one of them. We're gonna do about 3 pieces. Boom. That's beautiful right there. I mean, you just go straight through the bone and all. And that's all she wrote. Now I've got some Jamaica yellow pepper sauce here. Now this stuff right here costs for about 10 Scotch bonnet peppers, a cup of white vinegar, some salt, some carrots, some onion, some thyme. I'm gonna have the recipe to my website in the description. But first off, let's try it without the sauce. My favorite piece is this leg right here, by far. I love the smell. Hey, pretty phenomenal, that's insane. Now here we go. I've had it before, so it's not like it's a secret, you know what I'm saying? I know it's fucking good. Now this got a lot of peppers in it, let's try this. The vinegar just takes it up to an even higher level. A whole nother level, some people may say. You know, this is not overly spicy. Like, I think 7 out of 10 people can handle this heat. I pulled that number straight out my ass. I don't think those Scotch bonnets are that hot. Here, let me grab it. I got one right here. I'm about to try, I ain't never had one straight. Oh, hold up. God dang. Why'd I do that dumb shit? Holy fuck. It like hits you real slow. That's crazy. Oh my God. Whoa. I fucked up. It's not working. Holy shit. I'll never ever do that shit. Oh my God, it's hot. That was stupid. Every time I cool it down, man, it builds. Cause that pepper don't hit you like a habanero pepper. You eat it real fruity, not spicy. Boom, you fuck. So we learned a few things in this video, right? Learned some history about Jamaican jerk. You realize now that Jamaican jerk is not just some seasoning or a marinade or a sauce. It's everything. It's the history. It's the, fuck. It's hot. I can't keep drinking that. Oh. What the fuck? Yeah, don't do nothing right there. That's useless. But we learned some history about Jamaican jerk. Learned where it came from. You also learned how to make some pretty authentic Jamaican jerk. Order your ass some pimento wood. If you want authentic, get some pimento wood. I'm done. I'm fucking done. I'm done. Subscribe to my channel. Like the video. Holy shit, I'm done. Hold on. And what you're eventually going to see happen is the Taíno. What am I doing? Son of a bitch. That's a tough ass bottle right there. That's concrete that it just hit. Holy fuck, that's fucking stupid.